This video has helped you if you're studying for the AQA A Level Economics exam this summer, or if you're a teacher who's got students who are doing the exam. We'll think about the topics that are due for testing this summer. So this might be because they've not been tested on paper 1 or paper 2 since the new specification was first examined in 2017, or because they've been topical in the news over the past couple of years. Now, before we get started, there's just one thing I need to say. This video will help you, but you should never rely on question spotting as a basis for exam success. Please study widely and thoroughly across the whole specification, especially as paper 3 is synoptic and covers all the economics you've learned across your whole course. So beginning with some thoughts for micro paper 1 this summer. A top tip is the 3 topics at the top of this list. None of them have been examined so far since the new specification was launched, and I'd expect one of them to be there this summer. Another thought is contestable markets and barriers to entry. This is an area which has only been touched on very lightly in previous questions, and not for some time. And I think it would form the basis of a great exam question. Monopolistic competition as well. That's not come up since 2017. In recent paper 1s, we're seeing questions about oligopoly and competition. So those are perhaps less likely areas this time around. In terms of labour markets and government intervention in relation to them, poverty and wealth are very much due to come up. Now, a few extra thoughts here. Veganism has been on the rise in the last year or two, and the government has also published a national food strategy. So what about a question with food and dietary choices, perhaps in relation to demerit goods as a context? Maximum prices have been quite topical, so the energy price cap, chief executive pay and rent caps. And a real long shot, to what extent is economics a science for 25 marks? That could come up at some point in the future, not necessarily this year, but you just never know. Moving on to macro paper 2, my top tip here is investment. So this is really topical because the UK has got the lowest rate of investment amongst the G7 countries. And the topic of long-run growth, trend growth, is also due for testing. And the two can be linked together nicely in an exam question. Other topical areas to look out for. Recession and supply-side shocks. So the UK economy has experienced a number of supply-side shocks over recent years. And I could easily see this coming up. In the wake of Brexit, free trade deals as well. So could the UK sign a free trade deal with the US, for example? And what would the effects of that be? That could be a context question. The budget deficit and the national debt, that's definitely topical, as is policy to control inflation after our experiences of the last 12 to 18 months or so. In terms of topics which are due for testing haven't come up for some time, unemployment hasn't been tested directly on paper 2, but I can see since 2017. So could be the topic of a question this summer. And globalization. Now, we have had questions, of course, about international trade and trade policy, but globalization as a concept in itself hasn't been directly tested. So that could be due. And an interesting topicality about this is that at the moment, the world economy perhaps seems to be deglobalizing and taking a step away from globalization. Economics Factory have got a range of resources that can help you prepare for your exams this summer. And in relation to the topics we've just looked at, we've created our AQA style papers 2023. So there are 2 micro papers and 2 macro papers brand new questions written on the topics we think are due to come up this summer. And we've got really detailed accompanying mark schemes as well. So you'll be able to check the answers that you write and see if you're thinking along the same lines as us in terms of content. But you can also use those mark schemes to pick up new ideas for content, new points, new arguments that you can use on these topics, and lots of facts and examples that you can use for application as well. So if you want to head to see those AQA style papers 2023, there's a QR code in the corner of the screen for you. Now, looking back on the papers we wrote this time last year, we were pretty accurate. Now, of course, we can never fully predict a paper, but there's a very good chance that some of the questions that we forecast, or at least some of the topics that we forecast, will come up. So last year, on our 2022 papers, we asked for 15 marks, explain why there may be partial market failure in relation to merit goods and total market failure in relation to public goods. AQA asked for 15 marks, explain the difference between complete market failure and partial market failure. So that's a really close match. And we did even better with the accompanying 25 mark part of our essay question. So we asked to evaluate the view that government failure is a common outcome when governments intervene in markets. AQA asked exactly the same question, just with slightly different wording. So they asked to evaluate the view that government failure means that government intervention in markets will rarely lead to an improvement in economic welfare. So if you'd used our papers last summer, you would have been amazingly well set up there for a complete essay, both the 15 and the 25 mark parts. And as you'll see on your screen now, there are many other questions where we were pretty close as well. Now, the AQA style papers from 2022 are still available on our website. And you might want to think about buying them alongside the 2023 papers, because some of the questions we wrote for 2022 were on topics which actually didn't come up last summer. But in a way, that just makes them even more due for testing this time around. As you can see, Economics Factory has got a number of other resources to help you prepare for the summer. Probably our top resources are model answer collections. So for AQA, we've got an answer to every single current specification past paper question. And you can buy those by the pack, by the paper, or the answer to a particular question. And if you just scan the QR code on your screen now, that will take you to where you need to be. We've got topic trackers as well, so you can find out which topics have been examined when in the past and find out where to go to if you want to buy a model answer to a question on a particular topic. That will help guide you. And our revision guides as well. They give you pretty much everything you need to know for the exam in an incredibly clear and concise format. So thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Wish you huge good luck for your exams this summer. And I hope Economics Factory can support you along the way.